bring the meeting to order. Would someone like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, I can do it. I think I'll remember it this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is there any new changes to the agenda? I mean, the minutes.
We don't have minutes.
Don't have minutes.
Good.
Yeah, so you're going to jump right into
I'm going to jump right into
roll call.
Roll call. Nicholas.
Present.
Present. Amanda.
Present.
Jacqueline.
Present.
Shane.
Here.
Katie.
Kathy, here.
Kathy. Okay. And Joshua. Present. Okay. The first order of business I would like to bring would be old business. Would someone like to make a motion to talk about old business?
You don't need a motion. You can just jump right into the item.
Yes. Well, why did they tell us about this rule?
I don't know.
I've been reading this stuff.
We're all learning.
Yeah, Okay, great. We want to talk about the old business. The old business was the Development of Arts and Cultures Committee work plan for FY 2024 and 2025. Do you want to go through this?
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'll do a brief overview and presentation. I have the list on the screen as well. So as we discussed at our last meeting, the work plan is really kind of the guiding document for what the committee is going to work on in the coming year. This is for fiscal year 24-25. So obviously our fiscal year ends June 30th. So this is going to take us through 6 months here, and then we'll kind of sail into the next year as well. When we build a work plan, it's really important to remember that these should be tangible, achievable items. I know we got a lot of input from the whole committee, and I've compiled that list in the staff report, and there is some overlap and things like that. But whatever we talk about here, then the council is going to go and look at and say, is this what we want them to look at further? So there, like I said, there's quite a few ideas. It's broken down into different sections. I thought that was probably the easiest way to tackle it. I want to note that in general, what some of the things that some committee members suggested are really outside of the purview of the committee. I know there was a want to collaborate with the Planning Commission on bringing in businesses. That's not even what the Planning Commission does. That's not the role of the Planning Commission. That's not the role of this committee. This committee should be charged with focusing on how do we perpetuate and support arts and culture in San Clemente, and how can we do that as a city. Sure, through the course of that, whether it's through a program or an event, we might collaborate with private businesses, but we're not going to be guiding business development. That is not within this purview. Similarly, again, and I listed it all in there, and there are no bad ideas, but I think for context, it probably will help you guys to understand a little bit of the back end of it.
Yeah.
There's this kind of category of private partnerships. It's hard to say, Miramar Theater, you need to let us in. That's not the city's purview. That's not this committee's purview. Miramar is a private business. They're a private development, and they're working on their own through the planning division approval process. But at this point, I don't think we can do anything with Miramar right now because they're not even developed. They're still in a lot of different early phasing.
Yes.
So again, if we're focused on things we can accomplish, I don't think Miramar is in that very near term. And I think committee member Greco kind of pictured it as there's long term and there's near term. Maybe long term there's collaboration with private businesses, but I think as this committee is getting up and off the ground, we're really building the foundation for what is arts and culture. So keep that in mind. There's a couple of other things in here. I know that it came up at least twice, the Landers North Beach Boogie. Again, that was a private event that was held. And there were some concerns in the way they operated their event, so therefore the event was not brought back. And that was because they had violated some of the conditions of their permit. So those are things, again, outside of the purview of the committee. If a private business wants to come and apply for an event, they can certainly do that. And those are all processed through the Recreation Division. But again, if there's a violation or there's some history there, that's going to be city staff working directly with that business to get that permit back in place. They have not reapplied at this time. So those are kind of the ones that stuck out to me that I wanted to make sure we got ahead of a little bit before you guys got too deep into conversation. I think it's all great to have that vision, but if we can focus on where's our foundation, and then probably in the future we can fold those in. So that's kind of the gist of it. I want to show you so you guys know what we end up with is this is the template. This is the work plan template. So they're stacked on top of each other. Here's the first project, here's the second project. This is the page that gets submitted to council, and there could be 7 or 8 pages. But this is what council looks at, so you guys can see the information that gets filled in. And it's something that gets attached, and I would fill in the project name and the purpose and kind of the general overview, so you guys again have some context of what the council will ultimately see. They're not going to just see a listing, because obviously council is concerned about staff time and any kind of operating budget that needs to be attached to it. So that's the other side of it. With that, I'm happy to take questions if there are any, or you guys can talk amongst yourselves, or I'll let the chair continue forward.
May I have one question? Could you give us an example of a suggestion that would be more like what we're trying to?
Yes, so, and I included a couple of items within the discussion. So in your staff report right here, there's actually 4, I just forgot the number 4 there. Those are all items that are good work plan items. You can establish a subcommittee for an amphitheater. We know that that has to happen because council wants to see that happen, so that's going to be on the work plan. Updating the art in public places policy is also a very real project that we can tackle. We can look at other cities to see what everybody else does, and then look at our own spaces to figure out how can we mold that to make that for San Clemente. That then can be placed into a policy that we can take straight to council. So the committee can review it, you guys give your blessing, you say yes, this fits for San Clemente, and then it goes to council. And now we would potentially then have a policy in place that gives us, again, a guiding document on how public art is rolled out.
Perfect.
The other one is establishing a subcommittee to host an art exhibit at, and this is specific to the Cinco de Mayo event, but it could be a lot of different events. We could certainly look to expand that. And then the fourth one is establishing a subcommittee to provide input on the summer concert series. Now, that item does come up later on in our agenda because we've got to get ahead of that. I know we have musicians in the room that know we need to book now if we're going to start shows in June or July. So with this committee not meeting until later, I wanted to get that ahead of us as well. But again, I think that's an item that we push to council, so council's aware you're working on it. The committee's involved in that process. And those are work plan items.
Okay, great.
Does that answer it?
That answers my question exactly.
Yes.
We have all that to do right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have a couple of follows, because 2 of those points that you, the example, were a couple of my ideas. So, in terms of the Miramar Theater, so, it's just based on information I've read, they've proposed that there is a live venue to be a part of that.
Sure.
So, given that an amphitheater subcommittee is part of this potential committee as well, wouldn't that, just be an obvious type of venue to consider if this was to be happening? So I know it's in the long-term picture, and we're a non-governing body. Couldn't we make recommendations as an obvious thing within our committee?
Yeah, so now you're tying 2 things in, which is fine. So again, off of the amphitheater. So the committee decides the work plan item is to establish an amphitheater subcommittee or to have further discussions about an amphitheater. Through those discussions, there can be a conversation about what venues there are. Certainly Miramar might be an option. There's other venues in town as well. Bella Colina has a space. There's other sites. But that conversation for venues would come out of the amphitheater subcommittee conversation.
Okay. And, sorry, I was going to address my second, and then, so with the issue with North Beach Boogie, I guess I was going to approach it from the kind of the same idea that of making recommendations. So let's say they ran into some issues with the city during their event. Would it be within the purview to make recommendations? Well, you face this issue. We can assist you in, with the, finding the right contact.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
If we could almost be like a gasket to help with the person who wants to get the permit and how they can comply.
Right, because I just see that type of event as a net benefit to arts and culture.
But I think that would
yeah.
have to be something that would be
Yeah.
a big enough deal that we would want that. Like everyone would already want that. And I don't know if that way really do stuff that way. Let me just ask really very quick, or you should go first. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
My
right ahead.
question is just, amphitheater subcommittee is, the council is set on an amphitheater, an outdoor stage. They
Yes.
don't want an indoor stage, which is my understanding the theaters want, the groups around here, or the dance studio.
So, again, without getting into too much discussion, council wants an outdoor space. They really want to see an outdoor amphitheater. Parallel to that, they'd love to see an indoor performing arts facility as well. But this council has put a lot of emphasis on an outdoor amphitheater space.
Okay.
What if that's not what the citizens want?
Council is voted for by the citizens, so they're speaking for the community when they.
But with the outdoor, that's a seasonal thing. What about the rest of the year when it's bad weather and people still want to see performances?
So I don't want to get into discussion about an amphitheater. Again, this is focused on the work plan.
Yeah.
And I hear hesitancy about an amphitheater. We're not here to hash that out. What we're focused on is you will have an item for establishing a subcommittee for an amphitheater. And that subcommittee is going to consist of 3 members from this committee, and those 3 members can talk through those logistics and those details. And you could also then, to Kathy's point, you could also say, we want to also look into establishing a performing arts center space. You could look at that as well. Those could be 2 separate items. You could establish 2 separate committees, but the outdoor amphitheater has to be considered.
Just very quickly, so what would be essentially the best use of our time would be to make those subcommittees, and right? Wouldn't that be the most efficient?
Yeah, subcommittees allow for, and they're ad hoc subcommittees that allow for easy conversation, and they're kind of working groups. So you
Yeah.
can collaborate easily and freely and then come back to the entire committee with a presentation. They work really well for policy conversations when you're talking about looking at different sites. I found them to be very successful and helpful for that, rather than having all 7 of us come together for a called meeting where maybe those conversations can't flow as freely. We've found that those subcommittees allow that to happen a little bit easier. You could create a subcommittee for anything. It does. There is time. There's another time commitment to that then, because it's a separate meeting.
Right.
But again, any work that the subcommittee does comes back to the committee as a whole. So then members of the public can participate in the conversation, as can the entire committee.
Oh, definitely, the whole subcommittee thing, I'm down.
Yeah.
But since we have these calls to action, shouldn't we then create those working groups to
So what you would first do is these would get placed on the work plan. Council hypothetically would approve that work plan, and we would come back at a next meeting
Okay.
to establish the subcommittees.
Okay,
To
for sure.
say who's going to go where.
Okay.
I thought Jacqueline, I thought you had a question.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, as I'm listening to this and just thinking about the task at hand, it seems to me that, if I'm just being very practical, we've got 4 things already that need to be on the work plan that have pretty much been identified. So if we wanted to maybe think of a way to broadly describe one more thing, such as, additional, explore additional venues that could be used for indoor performances, something along that line, like craft that language, then that covers, based on what we already have, we're going to update the policy. We're going to explore the outdoor space that the city has basically said, you will do this. They've already identified that. It allows us to also explore indoor space and other performances. And then we've got the beach concerts to tackle. If we start there,
Yes.
we could also put an item in there of defining more detail. That becomes the big picture, and then if we think of the smaller pieces, the kids' art program, how does that fit into one of those big buckets? That would probably be a way to kind of quickly go through this list and say, this particular item that someone shared doesn't really fit in any one of these buckets. Do we want to create another bucket, or do we want to save that for like year 2? Just as a first pass for trying to organize all this in
Yes.
bite-sized chunks. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Sounds smart.
And you do have a speaker card, just so you know.
Okay.
Know when you want to take that.
I was going to kind of build on echoing what you're saying. I feel like we can honor the buckets that are defined. In particular, I have questions about 3 and 4, like establish a subcommittee to support the art exhibit for Cinco de Mayo. That seems like great. That's like, we can deliver that. But maybe the actual title of the bucket is like public art exhibits,
Yes.
right? And then bullet number 1 is Cinco de Mayo, and we like
Yes.
tack that off. But then it also opens up the question
Exactly.
of what is our philosophy around public art exhibits, and what other things, and then some of these other ideas.
Would that be
the
okay to
council
address it
members
like that?
Committee members
That
and
would-
populated
That's a
can do
great
that.
idea.
Similarly with the subcommittee for the summer concert series, it's like, public concerts, and then like summer concert series is bullet number 1, but some of these other like questions can maybe
I like that.
be embedded within it, so we just like,
Yeah, part of my- I
we
agree
can deliver
with
the
that,
thing
yeah.
they want as the first bullet, or the near-term goal, but maybe like expand it so that there's space to talk about some of the other things people are.
I was going to suggest broadening the summer concert thing anyways, so that kind of accomplishes that as well. So,
And I feel really similarly about the
Yeah.
amphitheater. It's like, okay, so let's say what's for the amphitheater, but again, like, where are the gaps? What's the demand? Right? I think that it makes sense for all of us to kind of assess, like, what spaces exist. What do people really need? What all of that is a part of it.
Establish
And revisiting
goals.
some of the research that was already done by
Exactly.
prior committee.
Any more discussions on it?
My only other question is, like, I really liked a lot of the kind of principles that came through with some of the comments that other committee members put forward, like, leveraging local talent, or engaging youth, or highlighting diverse cultures like surfing, the Mexican community, Native communities. And those feel to me almost like principles, or values that we would
I wonder
bring.
if that comes somewhat under the policy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like this, these are the things that we want to achieve. This is the policy in order to blah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to name, I think we should hold on to those things and make sure there's a spot where they can come forward, and I like that a lot. in the policy.
The task itself would
I
be
appreciate that.
create a policy or mission statement that we will be following.
Yeah, like a brand ID, like
That
something.
encompasses these,
Yeah,
these
exactly.
principles.
Yeah, and the way that you're saying how we could format that, we could really start using what we know to help the council with the issues that they're facing here. We could start immediately, letting them into whatever our skill set or whatever information we have to make these things better. Because I know, the Cinco de Mayo thing with the Maxburg Park thing is like something that I'm really, really excited about. I could flap your ear off for the rest of the time. So.
We still have a hard stop at 4.
Remember my brain?
Now, these are the 4, so would we break these down and make a motion?
Yeah, but
or-
you have a public speaker, so I encourage you to call your public speaker.
Okay, we have our speaker, and
Hi. You know, it was great seeing your work plan because some of the ideas were, we discussed at the Citizens Amphitheater Committee, and so it goes to the adage of great minds think alike, right? So when I was looking at this, there was two recommendations that brought forth in the Citizens Amphitheater. One was that to expand our mission, our goal, from an amphitheater to a performing arts center, because it was at the first meeting on July 24th that Susie Land, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and Kirsty McCleary, drama director from St. Columbia High School, said they wanted something indoors where there's dressing rooms and restrooms, because that is a key issue, a key problem with even Shakespeare by the Sea, where they go everywhere. Also the electrical, if an amphitheater, how is that? Whether they wait for 2 hours for someone to come in from the city to repair, and then that causes a delay of 45 minutes. Was that my 3 minutes? Okay. Oh my gosh. So basically, and the second recommendation was to expand our goal, or to be disbanded, and that Arts and Cultural Committee would take this on as well. So the second recommendation was that Camino Real Playhouse meet with the city manager, meet with Samantha Wiley and Jonathan Lightfoot for planning, to bring to the city council a proposal. And so after 7 months, I think they've set forth a couple of proposals, and so that is something that they have been working on. But one of the key issues was that we looked at looking for either a privately owned facility or publicly owned, which is either an open space, something that hasn't been developed, undeveloped land, or to an existing property. And part of the problem is that when I saw this, it mentioned Casa Romantica and the Miramar and Ole Hanson Beach Club. And Ole Hanson Beach Club has an exclusive contract which limits the city to operate in their facility, and I think also Casa Romantica has limited space for their activities. I haven't seen the contract in its entirety. So there's a concern there. So there's also the contract with Wedgwood from San Clemente Municipal Golf Course, and they have a contract there. So there's a lot of facilities that we have, yet they already are bound by the contracts that they have on them. So let's see. So one of the issues also was discussed was the economic feasibility, and that was the major problem. And it was Wayne Eggleston that said that someone has to form a foundation, which at that time, Camino Real Playhouse, the art director, said we already have a nonprofit, because that's something also, that it has to be funded by a source, not to use so much of the city funds, but also bring in. So that's another thing to look into, having someone do a foundation, or if someone's going to be the major leasee of a facility or a property. So that's another concern. But starting from the ground floor, I think there was already a committee before us for amphitheater years ago, and unfortunately they came to the problem of finances because they wanted to do from the ground floor up. And having Wayne Eggleston, former mayor Wayne Eggleston, on that citizen committee really tied into a lot of the history. So what I'm going to do is just email you for some of the things that were touched upon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any discussions? Okay,
No, I think we need to obviously hear stuff like that,
Yeah.
and put it into our input of what we're doing. Yeah.
Good resource.
Yeah, we all agree with that, definitely.
And I do have one comment. I mean, it was on the news that Cabrillo Playhouse, our existing play company, with respect to, to the Camino Playhouse, Cabrillo was more or less saying that their programming sometimes it doesn't sell out. They're not getting a lot of patrons for their own shows, so to have another one within the city could be a potential. Competition's not the right word.
I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. There's
so-
a limited
We would have to
demand
gauge
for
the demand.
Yeah. I
for-
think it's more about the kids, and fostering the arts with the kids and the drama with the kids and getting the kids involved in the theater arts in San Clemente. But yeah, we gotta talk about that.
Okay, so going back to the 5 main things we should focus in on, would anyone like to make a motion that we focus our attentions on those 4 points to actually work towards those, go for the low-hanging fruit, and then start building from there? Anyone like to make a motion?
I would second that motion.
So,
Wait, what do,
the 4
State
bullet
the
points.
motion.
Yeah, I can give a try for the motion. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try.
Because these, basically, this is
Draft motion.
The only thing I will say, and I'm sorry to interject, the one other item that's viable that probably needs to be a standalone item is the utility box art program.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily fit into any of the 4 categories because it actually is its own program.
Oh, you can fit under the art in public places?
It already exists, is what
No,
you're saying.
yeah, it
There's
already
a group that
exists.
I know
would see
that.
your the art in public places and exhibits and displays. I think is a little bit different. That utility box art program is very unique and has its own set of standards and kind of guidelines.
Yeah.
Needs to be brushed off, certainly. But I think that can be a standalone item that the committee can work on.
As far as I know, that's a really great way for artists to
Yes.
display their works publicly
Yes.
without some of the more
Right.
formal.
Right.
You know.
So the art in public places is a policy that's going to say
Okay.
this is how we accept public art. How if somebody wants to put a mural up, this is the process to do it. We're talking about utility box art, which is really its own program.
Yes.
It's not a policy necessarily, it's a program.
So it could be as simple as revive.
Yeah, and that's a standalone item, so that would take you to 5 items.
Okay.
And-
Does everybody think about, sorry,
No.
may I speak? I mean, I put that on there because I felt like it was kind of one of the short-term areas to have wins. And I just think that, like, because amphitheater and some of these other ones are, like long, complicated projects,
Yes.
that having other things that, immediately create things that excite the community and engage folks is a good idea.
100%. The more
Yeah.
things we establish, the more defined goals that we establish and pursue, the more clear we make the role of the committee.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that it was like ready to go, that essentially there's a template for it, but that makes it even easier to
Yeah.
kind of reactivate.
Exactly. We got it right here.
I have a friend from South Orange County that does a similar program for Hollywood, so I'd love to talk to her about that.
With the boxes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a cool deal.
Yeah.
Laguna has a really like fulsome public art program. They do, and we should maybe
With that said, I kind of want to include the colorful elephants. The elephants, but I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
seen
no,
those.
definitely.
I
Yeah,
think
the
those-
elephants was huge. It went
Yeah.
all the way around the world, and it
Yeah.
was a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we should.
If we do.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
If we do, so number 1, as it's written, is pretty much concrete. Number 2 is as well. And then number 3, we talked about expanding that to be, just art exhibits, like expand it beyond just Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yeah, what I have down is number 1 would be a subcommittee on an amphitheater and performing arts facilities,
Perfect.
because that is a little bit more inclusive. Number 2 would be art in public places policy. 3 would be a subcommittee on public art exhibits and displays, and that could be encompassing events and things like that. Number 4 would be a subcommittee on concert events or live music events. And then number 5 would be the utility box art program.
For 4, real quick, that was expanded, because my one kind of critique of number 4 would have been that summer concert series a little too
It's very specific.
specific.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
it can
could
be
broadened.
broader,
Okay,
certainly.
perfect.
Yeah.
I'm on board with
I have a
that.
question for number 2 for the art in public places policy. Is that like specifically visual arts, where the policy is essentially for murals, sculptures,
Yes.
mosaics, like that kind of?
Yes.
Public art.
And we wouldn't want a policy that's like a broader arts and culture policy that would include?
Not yet. I think we need to, what's right in front of us is updating an existing policy that's
Is it helpful to
outdated.
specify that, like visual, I don't know what the right words would be, but I just feel like art is a very broad word.
Yeah, we could specify that. I would look to you guys.
Josh, what's the right, is there a better?
Maybe we look to
Well, the
Josh.
visual arts, I think,
I'd
or,
appreciate.
yeah, public
Okay.
Yeah,
public art, public visual art has to be, it has to fit into a certain parameter, because we do have a diverse community of people who, some people don't even like murals at all,
Well, we also don't
Sorry.
want to get distracted by, what bands do we like and what don't we like, and who's regulating that? So
We're talking
about
really-
permanent,
Yeah.
built environment type
Yes.
of art. Okay.
Yeah, stuff that the community has to walk and drive by and look at every day. They might not necessarily want to see lime green and pink and stuff like that. We could even say that we deny,
Okay.
we could
I just
outlaw
wanted to
those
hear what
colors
you
even,
were
and I'm open to that.
Would
Okay.
a subcommittee be necessary for us to create our mission statement or whatever our priorities are and how we're going to go about? Would that be a subcommittee?
You certainly could as a sixth item.
Because I think that's very important, that we kind of define our scope of what we're doing.
Yeah, and
The work.
yes, it would be, the work plan item could be, define a vision and scope of work for the Arts and Culture Committee.
It wouldn't have to be a subcommittee.
Not necessarily,
It's
no.
just something that we all
Yeah.
work on.
I think
Yeah.
that would just be part of this
yes.
committee as a whole. That's what we're-
And also, it will probably be shaped and reshaped, but just, getting it all together and seeing how it comes into the picture.
And that's a nice place to tuck in all the things that are almost values that we want to make sure are instilled as a part of that.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so I've got 6 items. Did we capture it?
Should we repeat?
I don't think I have them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Just, I have a
Did it-
question for you, Samantha.
Uh-huh.
No, go right
You
ahead.
know, what it doesn't allow space for is kind of the listening and kind of public input piece that came through in a couple of the different points of either, like a survey from the community of what they value, or an identifying of like, we are creators and artists in town. I'm really excited about that because I think it will help us figure out kind of who's here and where the gaps are.
And I was thinking that would go along with creating a mission statement.
I think-
It's finding out what the community really wants, what
100%.
what is important. That to me is something that, we really need to tap into. Because it's their money, they want to have some input on what we as the citizens are.
100%. It's going to be kind of like whether we win or lose almost. It's like
Yeah.
whether we can satisfy that general consensus in town. It's like, oh, those guys, did you see those guys are doing like good stuff? And if we know what people want, that's it.
And the beauty about it would bring out the hidden subcultures that we may not know that's here.
Oh, don't worry about
And realistically,
that. Don't worry about that.
I mean, you talked a couple times about, we're going to make these recommendations to council, but at the end of the day, they're going to tell us what they want us to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Where does that public opinion / survey sit in that dynamic?
I would put that underneath kind of defining the vision and mission for this committee.
Okay.
And part of that, again, hypothetically, at our next meeting, there's an item on the agenda that talks about how do we go about doing that. The first step could be, we're going to create a survey and we're going to circulate it around town, get it out to the public. And surveys, they can, they're not necessarily statistically valid, but it's a sampling, right? Similar to how we try to gather feedback when we replace a playground. We circulate a survey to try to get that feedback. So that kind of conversation and public input could come through your conversations of mission and vision.
And it doesn't have to be a work plan.
Correct.
That's great.
The work plan is the big buckets, and then how we
Right.
accomplish those things
Yeah.
is is a work in progress.
My suggestion then would be for 6 to just retitle as something more of just a public input committee or something like that, just because I feel like the mission should be part of our overall large committee here, you know. I feel like that's separate versus, and then.
100%. It's like
Yeah.
we have to deal with both sides.
Yeah.
And try to find the balance that serves both.
And as a survey, we could probably throw a wide net instead of just, the traditional paper, boom, boom, but set up a portal like on a website, and direct people there, and I think we would cast a wider net and get a larger, input from the public, because now everyone can do it from the comfort of the home. They don't have to have all the time to have materials in their hands, and I think they would be more relaxed and more forthcoming, with what they would want to see.
More engagement.
And more
too.
engaging, yeah.
Yeah.
And add in the times with a QR code. in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A lot of the stuff in the programs are within that realm as well, so that would
Yeah.
fall into those categories. So, okay.
So,
So, our first work plan is like establish a committee for an amphitheater, correct?
yes.
Yeah, I have it down. So I'll say it, I can read it, and then we'll need a motion in a second. Your first is a subcommittee on amphitheater and performing arts facility. Your second is a visual art and public places policy update. Number 3 is a subcommittee on public art exhibits and displays. Number 4 is the subcommittee on concerts and live music events. Number 5 is the utility box art program reestablishment or update. I'll wordsmith that. And then number 6 is defining the vision and mission for the Arts and Culture Committee, including public input. Is that how you want that to work? Or what I normally do is I'll work with the chair to make sure that the ideas are captured on the work plan. But
Or that represents the public's interests, or something along those lines. And I thought we were going to add visual art.
yeah, that's in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I remember that.
She did, yeah.
That works.
So you need a motion in a second.
So,
For all
second
6 or
motion?
each one individually?
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
What's that?
Was it for all 6 or for, do we vote on?
All 6.
Second. So the motion is adopted.
Oh, we got a third. We need to go
Who
through.
was the motion?
I did the motion.
Okay,
Motion.
motion by Jackie and
Motion by
second
Jackie,
by
second by-
Amanda.
Amanda.
And then you can just do it all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is adopted.
Okay.
Okay. And that concludes the old business.
Yes, it does.
Now, next we will move on to the new business. The new business is establishment of a summer concert subcommittee.
So this is, we kind of just discussed it, but right now, the recreation staff are in the process, we've already got our dates lined up for our summer concert series, but we've got to book our band. So I would love to sit down with a subcommittee of 2 to 3 members, whoever feels like they might want to participate, in choosing some of those bands.
Okay.
That's in my report.
Duly noted.
Nothing further.
Yeah, so then how do we break down these, how does the
Yeah, that's
member
exactly-
process go with
that's
that?
That's
exactly
up to you
how I was
guys. You can do it however you want. It's 3-member subcommittee. You could decide that this is just specific to the summer concert series, because that's what's right in front of us. Right now, we don't have other concerts coming. We don't have another series. We do live music at most of our events, though. So right now it's for the 2024 concert series starting in June. And these are rotating, so this would potentially, any ad hoc subcommittee has to be reestablished at the start of the new fiscal year. So right now, this subcommittee is basically from now until June 30th, but that would plan the entire concert series for this year.
So who would,
And it's max 3 members, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
no more than 3.
Brown.
How does this subcommittee communicate with the city about budgets and things like that when reaching out
So
to groups?
We would meet, whoever the subcommittee would meet with myself and my events team, and we would talk through what the budget looks like. Typically, you know, we're giving an entire budget for the whole summer, and usually we found that there's some performers that are a little bit less expensive.
Yeah.
So we have some cost savings there when we put some of our money towards kind of that bigger performance. Maybe that's our opening band for the summer lineup. That's kind of how we fluctuate with the costs. And then the city, I mean, I've done negotiating with those performers. My staff will do that negotiating, but certainly the subcommittee, if there's connections, the subcommittee members can support that conversation as well.
Because, should we go ahead and establish a subcommittee now?
Yes. Yep, we want to do that now.
Okay, so I'd like to open it up so to see who would like to be on the subcommittee.
Well, I think these guys are,
I have a lot of experience
I
doing
know.
this.
I know.
Definitely, yeah, trust Nick on that
I
one.
know Nick has a lot of experience.
yeah, I agree. And my whole deal is more like, you know, I could call my friends and they could maybe see if they would want to play, but really the timing is the most essential thing. Like,
Okay.
you know, it's like if they're on tour or if, you know, so, I mean, I would love to participate, but I think my value is kind of more decided on whether just some of my former compatriots would be available.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I would need to actually be a part of the subcommittee for that.
If you'd like to have the conversation, you'd have to be on the subcommittee.
Okay.
So this is probably something that wouldn't come back to the committee as a whole. The subcommittee would make those decisions, and then we would go.
All right, well, Nicholas, maybe you and I should work on that, because we might know some of the same people and stuff.
And we would need 3, so I'm going to throw you in.
Okay, cool, here we go.
Okay,
Does anyone else want to be on
Anybody
that?
else want to be?
I mean, I would be willing to.
Okay.
My approach is probably going to be different, but I also want to be really cognizant of time commitment. So if it's a matter of you kind of already have some groups that you've worked with before, and it's a matter of choosing, and you know you're foreseeing 1 or 2 meetings, I could do that. If it's reinventing this, you know, from an entirely different approach, that's going to take more bandwidth than I probably have to offer.
I think that Nicholas and I are eager to kind of do that, just because of our own kind of natural affinity.
Yeah.
So I agree. And we will be, you know, open to everyone. Can't we?
Yeah, even if it's 3 people, it can be like here, not, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
book like
You guys
Slayer.
I would be that person. So if you have contacts or requests for consideration, you would email them to me, and I can share them.
Because it's a fairly involved effort, and I think the Summer Concert Series has been really successful, and I've seen some amazing shows down there, and the visuals and everything is just great, and
Yeah.
the vibe is great, and everything's great. It's a total win for the city. So it's going to be challenging to try to do better than that. But
We set the bar really high.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of dance parties at the community center listening to music.
Submissions.
It's kind of in conflict with Casa Romanica to me, because we also do three concerts in the summer.
Right.
On a Thursday night, same night. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bands. I've gone to the Dana Point ones. They've had some really great bands there.
Yeah, and great reactions.
So,
from people.
yeah,
And people being
like, I
really
know there
so-
was a Bob Seger band I saw over there that was phenomenal. I don't know if they've done something like
I
that.
love Bob Seger.
So I have a lot of connections too, but on this one, I'm going to step back, and I would like to nominate Josh, Nick, and Shane to be the subcommittee.
Yay.
Would anyone like to second that?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion is passed. That's our subcommittee.
And we won't blow it.
Yeah. But I'll be watching.
I'm curious enough, like, how
Listen.
much often do you feel like, oh, these guys were amazing, let's definitely ask them back? Do you feel like there is like a starting list of bands that work?
We
really well?
do. Yes, we usually have like our regular, we try to do local bands because that brings a really big community base out. And we
Yeah.
have kind of our regulars, but last year we tried to kind of reinvent it a little bit and kind of do a decades, every concert had a different decade in it. And so we're open to anything, but there's definitely, you know, everybody loves the Kelly Boys Band as our country band. They love them. And we haven't found a better country band than Kelly Boys, so, but we're open to ideas, so.
Are the dates set?
They're in the rec catalog, right? And they just come
Oh,
out.
they are?
I don't know if they're listed in
Papers
there. We have to set the dates early based on the tides, so.
And if
Yeah.
you guys need any input, feel free to, talk to me, because I have some, I may have people and promoters that you don't know.
Sure.
I can turn you on to. So more than happy to just give input to you guys.
Absolutely, Sherman.
Okay.
Okay. So, a motion is adopted. Yay, so we have a subcommittee.
All right, it's our first subcommittee.
Yeah.
And it's rock.
And
How
rock.
sick is
Yeah.
that?
Well, not necessarily, they do
That's
reggae
true, that's true.
and,
Oh, yes, very much.
Got a lot of jazz bands under my sleeves.
Yeah, for real. That would be amazing.
Yeah. So, the next thing, so that motion is passed. Thank you guys for stepping up. With that, if there's no additional business at this point, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn. Adjourn the meeting.
second.
Okay, yep.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Right on.
Thank you guys. This is
Nicely
awesome.
done.